Hare Krishna, Hare Bol. How is everyone today? Let's see how we are doing on the YouTube. Oh, don't have a notification yet. Just want to check to make sure we're live. I believe we're live. And that's great. And hopefully my mic is not picking up this really loud laptop fan. I don't think it is, because I changed the settings. Anyway, oh, some lag there. We are going to continue where we left off last time with verse, it's in my notes here, I think it's 2:14. Yes, chapter 2, verse 14 in the Bhagavad Gita. Really exciting. I'm going to be reading this entire Bhagavad Gita, including the purports, not so much the Sanskrit, and skipping a lot of chapter 1. Sorry about that. From beginning to end. Let's see, we're on stream number 6, I think. Yikes. And we're not even halfway through the second chapter. This will take many, many live streams. Here it is, the one and only. Oops, didn't mean to cover you, Arjun. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Oh, we're almost at the pictures. 2:14. O son of Kunti, the non-permanent appearance of happiness and distress and their disappearance in due course are like the appearance and disappearance of winter and summer seasons. They arise from sense perception, O scion of Bharata, and one must learn to tolerate them without being disturbed. Note to self and others, I am going to seriously practice looking at the webcam instead of looking at myself on the screen. I'm not a celebrity or a professional actor, and I still need to work on this. So yeah, this is a critical verse, which I actually have saved in my notes. I have a bunch of like really key verses that I keep on shorthand in case I forget where they are. This is one of them. It's one of the most fundamental teachings. Basically, everything's illusion. Happiness is real and distress is real. You do actually have those feelings, but they're temporary. Just like hot and cold, they come and they go. All of your feelings inside of you is just the weather that's out there. Interestingly enough, we have some snow right now. I hope I'll be able to work tonight. I don't actually hope, because I don't like that driving job. But yeah, looks like it'll be tapering off very soon, just this hour. Okay, short purport, which is interesting for how important this verse is, I think. In the proper discharge of duty, one has to learn to tolerate non-permanent appearances and disappearances of happiness and distress. Holy cow. That first sentence is a verse unto itself. Oh my God. Okay, first of all, in the proper discharge of duty. That's what everything is about in the Gita. Dharma. It's all about doing your duty. That is exactly what Arjuna was not doing, and hence the Bhagavad Gita exists. This does not make sense. This fundamental chapter 2, chapter 3 parts of the Gita do not make sense. if you don't have a duty that you've really committed to and you're really doing. And we all have duties whether we like it or not. We have a duty to maintain the body. But unfortunately, it's really easy to just go along in life minimally taking care of your body without even thinking about it. Like going to the bathroom, number one, number two. You don't have to, it's not, you don't think about it like your duty. You just, the nature calls and you go do it. But that is duty. It's just that the material law, the material nature, the material modes are acting on your behalf a lot more than other things. But eating the right amounts and sleeping the right amounts, as we'll see in 248, I believe, can also be like, if you have a great character, great conditioning, great DNA, great past lives, you'll naturally be good at that. But if you're not, it's really up to your control how you're eating, how you're sleeping, and you really have to do that correctly to progress. I'm not talking about being a better libtard. I mean actual progression. Oh, okay. Second amazing thing about this first sentence of the purport: appearances and disappearances of happiness and distress. So, in a few words, Prabhupada greatly reduced the importance of happiness and distress by calling them simply appearances and disappearances, meaning their entire existence is now trivialized as just something that appears and disappears, like a flickering light, which is true according to the eternal perspective. That's actually true. And even if you're not spiritual at all, if you're actually like masterful at something, and I mean really masterful, and one trivial little thing happens, you don't even notice it. When you're a beginner, you go, "Oh my god, it's too much, I better quit." And you know, that's most people who try martial arts, they never get beyond white belt. Because most people don't even put on the white belt. They just stand outside the dojo and go, "Whoa, that looks cool. I could totally do that." Or, "Whoa, that looks cool. I could never do that." They never even step inside. Of the many who step inside, few will don the white belt. Of the many who don the white belt, few will stick with it until yellow belt, and so on and so on and so on. And so it is with Krishna Bhakti. Or even just like karma yoga, just like the basic things of the first few chapters here. Very few people really sincerely practice this for any amount of time throughout their entire lifetimes, which is why I really get excited about these early chapters, because it's just about being a boss, being like a good person, like an excellent person. And then from that platform, when you practice Krishna Bhakti, your Krishna Bhakti is a lot stronger because it's coming from a place of excellence. According to Vedic injunction, one has to take his bath early in the morning, even during the month of Magha, January, February. It's very cold at that time, but in spite of that, a man who abides by the religious principles, not me, does not hesitate to take his bath. Oh, well, at least it says not a cold bath. It just says bath. Similarly, a woman does not hesitate to cook in the kitchen in the months of May and June, the hottest part of the summer season. Maybe early breakfast, early dinner is not so bad, but cooking a lunch, midday in the hot summer, that's hard. One has to execute his duty in spite of climatic inconveniences. Similarly, to fight is the religious principle of the Kshatriyas. And although one has to fight with some friend or relative, one should not deviate from his prescribed duty. Also worth noting, and should be obvious to you, there is a hierarchy of duties. So the duty of your occupation, born of your nature, like your varna, will overrule other duties. Like if, like, we have a duty to brush our teeth every day, and if you forget to do that one day because you're doing lots of excellent extra stuff for your work, based on your varna, that's totally fine. And of course, Sanatan Dharma overrules everything else, overrules every other Dharma, which is 1866 in the Gita, not the year. One has to follow the prescribed rules and regulations of religious principles in order to rise up to the platform of knowledge, because by knowledge and devotion only can one liberate himself from the clutches of Maya, illusion. The two different names of address given to Arjuna are also significant. To address him as Kaunteya signifies his great blood relations from his mother's side, and addressing him as Bharata signifies the father's side, greatness from the father's side. Both sides, he is supposed to have a great heritage, and a great heritage brings responsibility in the matter of proper discharge of duties. Therefore, he cannot avoid fighting. Thank you, Prabhupada. Also bringing in another kind of dharma, which is ancestry. We have a duty to glorify our ancestors and live up to their name as best we can. That's one reason I'm here right now, because I have a long lineage, tradition, ancestry that is practicing the academic path, such as reading ancient texts, discussing them, teaching them. This is not just like my own whimsical, selfish little hobby or something. This is born of my nature, in large part because of my paternal and maternal lineage. Thanks, guys. It's easy to make fun of because I'm a Western American modern person. If I was like Chinese, I couldn't just like do that to the ancestors like that. 2:15. O best among men, Arjuna, the person who is not disturbed by happiness and distress and is steady in both is certainly eligible for liberation. So this is the beginning. Krishna's not saying, okay, now you're liberated and you're done. Congrats. He's saying, oh, even if you're able to be very happy and very disturbed and be unaffected by that, to be really solid in that, you're still only eligible for liberation, not guaranteed. That just means congratulations, you're like a white belt and you're ready to like go to the next level if you can. Okay, so mentioning about Lord Chaitanya here. In the Varnashram institution, the fourth stage of life, sannyas, is painstaking. But one who is serious about it surely adopts this in spite of all difficulties. And it's difficult. You have to sever family relationships with wife and children. But if you're able to tolerate such difficulties, your path to spiritual realization is complete. Prabhupada's speaking a little stronger than Krishna here, I think. And for Arjuna, as a kshatriya, he should persevere, even though it's difficult to fight with your own family. Normally, your own family's behind you and the enemy's in front of you, and the enemy's very different, like maybe a different ethnicity even, right? But very different here for Arjuna. Lord Chaitanya took sannyas at the age of 24, and his dependents, young wife, as well as old mother, had no one else to look after them. So that's harsh. I mean, family is a big dharma. It's up there on the hierarchy. But for a higher cause, in this case, Daiva Varnashram Dharma, Daiva Varnashram Dharma, which doesn't just mean, okay, I'm old, and so now I'm taking sannyas because I'm at that age. It's I'm taking sannyas for the benefit of the Lord and all the living entities. That's the Daiva part, the divine part, making Varnashram Dharma not just merely a socio-political, system, but as this entire human society arranged in this way, all of that is dovetailed and going up. It's like a trickle up economics right up to Krishna, Sri Krishna, Hari Bol. So for a higher cause, he took sannyas and was steady in the discharge of higher duties. That is the way of achieving liberation from material bondage. Yeah, so some people like me who just practice detachment just for the sake of detachment, I'm just going to see what it's like to not care about my family anymore. True story. This is what I've been doing since I was a little kid. Long before I knew about the Gita, anything else, I was doing little meditations. I wonder what it's like to kill someone. Doing that very vividly, feeling all the bad things about that, and then not having nightmares as best I can. And then, the more you do it, the more you're detached from it. Anything it is, whatever it is, you just do it enough times and then you go, it's boring. That would be called dhyana yoga, I believe, within the Gita. And that is not always recommended. Although if you want to be my people, yeah, you got to do that. Sorry. 216. Those who are seers of the truth have concluded that of the non-existent there is no endurance, and of the existent there is no cessation. This seers have concluded by studying the nature of both. This was quoted recently by Acharya Dev, Fridayananda Maharaj. Because you're talking about the fall of the jiva, right? And what many people are saying is that there's a third category that violates this verse. Basically, what this verse is saying is that there's only two categories. There is the non-existent, Maya, the material universe, which has no endurance, zero life to it, compared to that which is existent, which never dies, has no cessation. Things are either 100% eternal or basically 100% temporary. And this you conclude by studying the nature of both. Okay, another important part of what is this fall of jiva thing, which I don't even care about? It's like, I can't even guys, it doesn't matter if you think that's a controversy, like you're a neophyte, like a low level neophyte. I don't even know. Like I can't take it seriously enough for enough moments to actually like think about the arguments. I'll try. Let me try again. What we are saying, Acharya Dev and myself, is that we are eternal. We are within one of these two categories. We are eternal. We are the jivas. We are eternal. And we were with Krishna. And we said, I'm bored. See you later. And then we came down to this material world. I want to lord it over the material nature too. So Krishna said, fine. Your wish is my command. And now we're here, and now we're slowly realizing, oh, maybe that's dumb. Maybe I should go back. And this is like Leela between the jiva and the super soul. Is this constant dance between like Krishna? I want to be more like Krishna in this way. Krishna's like, okay, go for it, but you could get in trouble. And then we go, okay, I'll go back home, and then maybe we do come back home, and then we come back here again, and okay, that was unfair because it does say in many other places in the Shastra that in the Gita too that those who come to Krishna says something like those who come to my abode never go back to the material world, and I do believe that to be true. Although there's also the Bodhisattvas. I think Srila Prabhupada is one of them who, was, in Krishna's world, but, desperate to serve in a very powerful way. And so consciously taking on the suffering and karma of others and making a little bit of a risk coming back here to the material world to do so much more service than would otherwise be able to do in Krishna Loka. I'm speculating, I guess, but Anyway, Bodhisattva is a real thing, though. So, I mean, within Gaudiya Vaishnava, there might be a different term for it, or, whatever, but I'm not going to sit here and say that's not a real thing. In some way, whether it's Prabhupada or not, who knows? Okay, the other people say, what do they say? They say that we were not eternal, like we were created. Yeah, like we were like created, and we're never with Krishna, and now we have to we're trying to get back there. But eternal is eternal, so like either we were eternal and we were never with Krishna before ever, which I believe is rejected by other verses here, and maybe even in the Upanishads. Or we were eternal and we were with Krishna before, and we decided, or it was our karma, to leave. And we left. And that's it. And it doesn't matter either way, because you're here, you're stuck here. And if you want to go back to Krishna, you got to do things that get you back to Krishna, which is not debating about the fall of the Jiva Tattva, blah, blah, blah. That's basically Prajalpa. It's like, I think that's why so many neophytes get caught up in this, because it's like divine Prajalpa. So it's like Krishna conscious enough and like intellectually stimulating enough where you can really lie to yourself and tell you that you're doing great things, learning and talking about this stuff. Oh, it's Krishna Gita. No, it's actually just Prajalpa with a lot of divine, flowery Vedic language. So you're dumb enough to think that you're doing something good for yourself, which you're not. It's the same thing with like all the other controversies, and it's like female Diksha guru. I don't even know what else is there. Like, oh, you're wearing a dhoti, he's wearing pants. Oh, that's evil. Ooh. Dude, when you're actually practicing Krishna Bhakti, these things don't matter. They're all details. They don't matter. They're laughably inconsequential. Horrible. Purport: there is no endurance of the changing body. That the body is changing every moment by the actions and reactions of the different cells is admitted by modern science. Thus, there is growth in old age. But the spirit soul is permanent, remaining the same despite all the changes in the body. That is the difference between matter and spirit. By nature, the body is ever changing and the soul is eternal. And it's established by all classes of seers of the truth, both impersonalist and personalist. In Vishnu Purana, it's stated that Vishnu and his abodes are self-illuminated. Jyotimsi Vishnur Bhavanani Vishnu. The words existent and non-existent refer only to spirit and matter. Okay. So this is the beginning of the instruction by the Lord to the living entities who are bewildered by the influence of ignorance. Removal of ignorance involves the reestablishment of the eternal relationship between the worshipper and the worshipable, and the consequent understanding of the difference between the part and parcel living entities and the supreme personality of Godhead. Oh my God. Prabhupada is jumping past a lot of logical steps that are a lot of Mayavadis and, atheistic secular people need to take. And he's just going straight to like super soul. And I'm pretty sure that's on purpose. Because, Prabhupada is going to destroy this impersonalist notion in many different ways. But, yeah, how he just went right into the part and parcel part there. Because what we were talking about just a second ago was like the material body and the spirit soul. And it would make sense to harp on that a bit more to make that very clear to people who really haven't gotten that yet. But he's the Bhakti Vedanta Swami, so he goes right to the Bhakti. I think it's a little sneaky in a very good way. One can understand the nature of the Supreme by thorough study of oneself. The difference between oneself and the Supreme is part versus whole. And in the Vedanta Sutras, as well as the Bhagavatam, the Supreme, has been accepted as the origin of all emanations. Such emanations are experienced by superior and inferior natural sequences. The living entities belong to the superior nature, as it's said in the 7th chapter. Although there is no difference between the energy and the energetic is accepted as the Supreme, and energy or nature, did it really just say or nature? Yep. Energy or nature is accepted as the subordinate. The living entities, therefore, are always subordinate to the Supreme Lord. Man, it's already half hour. You did what, 2 verses? 3 verses? This is a real vocal cord workout for me, too. The living entities, therefore, are always subordinate to the Supreme Lord, as in the case of the master and the servant, or the teacher and the taught. Such clear knowledge is impossible to understand under the spell of ignorance, and to drive away such ignorance, the Lord teaches the Gita for the alignment of all living entities all time. One more thing I forgot to mention. In this verse, the last sentence, this seers have concluded by studying the nature of both. There's a very broad meta lesson here, which is that this is how you understand anything, by seeing it from, at the very least, both sides. Those who say this does exist or it doesn't exist, those who say this is right or this is wrong. You carefully and objectively study both the opposing sides to come to the truth. Now, actually, that's not enough for me and for others to really understand something. You need to study at least 3 different dimensions of that thing, and typically quite a lot more. Like Da Vinci said that, and he was an artist, so he would draw things, and he said to really understand something, you have to see it from as many perspectives as possible, which is a literal description of what he was doing. Looking at anatomy, he'd look at it from top to bottom, left to right, from outside in, from inside out, from like systemically, like how does that ligament connect with the greater system as part versus whole, whole versus part. That's how you understand something. That's how you really get it. 217. No, that which pervades the entire body is indestructible. No one is able to destroy the imperishable soul. Huge purport here. Oh, yeah. 2 full pages or a little more. This verse clearly explains the real nature of the soul, which is spread all over the body. Anyone can understand what is spread all over the body. It is consciousness. And the spreading of consciousness is limited within one's own body. Other people don't know about our own particular pains and pleasures. Though there are signals you can pick up on to experience it yourself, it's only within your body that you feel that. The soul is described as 1/10,000th part of the upper portion of the hair point in size, as it's confirmed in the Svetasvatara Upanishad. Therefore, the individual particle of spirit soul is a spiritual atom smaller than the material atoms, and such atoms are innumerable. So the influence of this spiritual spark is spread all over the body, just as the influence of the active principle of some medicine spreads throughout the body. so the spirit soul is felt all over the body as consciousness, and that's proof of the presence of the soul. That's very important there. So consciousness in all of its glory and all of its ability, consciousness in its entirety is nothing but the symptom of the soul, which is a really powerful statement concerning the soul, as because consciousness is so vast and achintya that modern scientists don't have a clue even to define it, what it is. Just defining it is a nightmare for most modern Western people, which that's the stuff I feel, right, in the place where I feel them. Yeah. um Okay, continuing. Any layman can understand that material body minus consciousness is a dead body. And this consciousness cannot be revived in the body by any means of material administration. Therefore, consciousness is not due to any amount of material combination, but to the spirit soul. In the Mundaka Upanishad, the measurement of the atomic spirit soul is further explained, but I think we got to just repeat the last few sentences again and again. It's so simple. I think this is why people miss it, because it's too simple. Obviously, you look at a dead body, and it's the same material body that we have, but that one's dead and we are alive. Because, is it just because the heart stopped beating? No, that's a symptom. That's an external sign. Now, it's true for us. If our heart stops beating, our body will no longer operate. And then the soul leaves the body. Because the soul can only accept a vehicle that works. If the vehicle doesn't work, the soul doesn't sit there. It's gonna go somewhere else. Now, you could debate whether, like, a dead body, and I think it depends within each instance, but like, is it like the body dies and then the soul leaves, or the soul decides for a death event to happen to the body so that the soul can go somewhere else, or it's both, or it's a Chinti Beta, a Beta. I mean, it doesn't actually matter for our present purposes. The point here is that um, there's a few moments after someone dies where you can revive them, but after that, the soul is gone, and there's no material thing you can do to make that body come back alive, because even our bodies now are basically dead bodies. That's what body means. It's dead. Matter is dead. It's like animated by uh, by the soul and by consciousness. So as soon as that soul or consciousness leaves, it just goes back to being dead, which it always was and is. I'm trying to, like, for most of us, this is fine. Most of us listening to this now, I can keep going, but I'm always trying to find a good way to explain this to, like, these secular people who have no experience of theology about the soul, basically, or worse, like many people who grow up today in American public schools and whatever, and churches even, that are actively dissuaded from studying such things. Oh, Acharya Dev told in a lecture recently, he was asked to do something at a university, and they said, okay, you can talk about whatever you want, but please just don't mention God or religion. So the first thing he said was, well, why is it, class, that any time in an academic setting we cannot talk about God or religion? And then he just went through the whole world history of religion and God, which is against the rules. But guess what? Most of these people are cowards, and that's the right way to go through with this. Sorry. Hmm. Oh, this is a very interesting verse from Mundaka 319. The soul is atomic in size and can be perceived by perfect intelligence. The atomic soul is floating in the five kinds of air: prana, apana, vyana, samana, and udana. It's situated within the heart and spreads its influence all over the body. When of the embodied living entities, when the soul is purified from the contamination of the five kinds of material air, its spiritual influence is exhibited. Meaning that perfect intelligence it mentioned in the first sentence, um, that's so that perfect intelligence comes from purifying these material airs, and then all that's left is the soul. And so then you can perceive the soul. I mean, you are the soul, but then you can perceive yourself. And one common example I know Acharyadev mentions, maybe this is from Prabhupada, but it's basically like water. Water is, to get pure water, you don't like add something to make it pure. You take away all the stuff that isn't water, and then all you're left with is water, or pure water. So the soul is like pure water. It's perfect by itself. And we just need to get rid of everything that isn't the soul, and all that's left is the soul. And the soul is Satchidananda, eternal, all knowledge, all bliss, and part and parcel of Paramatma, the super soul. So simply by getting rid of all these material things, you know, you're just you're stuck with what you got in the end. The Hatha yoga system is meant for controlling the five kinds of air by sitting postures. It's not for material profit, but for liberation of the minute soul from the entanglement of the material atmosphere. There's many other kinds of yogas that directly target those material things to get rid of them. I'm very partial to these yogas. But at the same time, I can see why most Kali Yuga people just can't. It's not a bona fide path anymore. We don't have the attention span, the determination, the ability, and it's just better to chant Hare Krishna. And when you're not chanting, you can do Yukta Vairagya, and those material things will dissipate anyway. Um, yeah, through Yukta Vairagya, Karma Yoga. It's all right here in the Gita, all the different things you can do. But at the end of the day, it's 1866, chapter 18, verse 66. That's what it's all about at the end of the day. I would say that Lord Chaitanya is, yes, he's the manifestation of Radha Krishna, but also verse 66 from chapter 18 within this Kali Yuga. That one verse says it all. So the constitution of the atomic soul is admitted in all Vedic literatures, and it is also actually felt in the practical experience of any sane man. Once again, really strong language from Prabhupada, whether you realize it or not. Because what he's implying is that everyone else is insane, which is actually true. If you believe that consciousness is material or there is no soul, you're just insane. It's not a valid belief to have within this like pool of valid beliefs that we can all have our equal opinions about. This is actually tattva. It's a real category of nature which you either see or don't see. And among those who see, there are those who live like it and those who don't. And among those who see and live like it, there are those who do that well and not well, and so on all the way to the top. Only the insane man can think of this atomic soul as all pervading Vishnu Tattva. Yep, and I have experience of being one of these insane men. Um, it's basically when you're in Brahma Jyoti realization, but you mistake it for Paramatma realization. That's a common mistake as far as I can tell, because there's just so much bliss in God consciousness, whether it's the oneness or the super soulness or the Bhagavanness. There's so much bliss that we're not used to because of our conditioning that we just think, oh man, it's me. And because it's coming from inside you, so oh, it's me. It's like, no, you're just a part of it. The influence of the atomic soul can be spread all over a particular body. And this soul is in the heart of every living entity. This is another good part here. Because the measurement of the soul is beyond the power of appreciation of the material scientists, some of them assert foolishly that there is no soul. The individual atomic soul is definitely there in the heart, along with the super soul, and thus all the energies of bodily movement are emanating from this part of the body. The corpuscles, which carry the oxygen from the lungs, gather energy from the soul. When the soul passes away from this position, activity of the blood generating fusion ceases. Fusion. Whoa. Medical science accepts the importance of the red corpuscles, but it cannot ascertain that the source of the energy is the soul. Medical science, however, does admit that the heart is the seat of all energies of the body. That's a nice Purva-paksha. Thank you, Prabhupada. Such atomic particles of the spirit whole are compared to the sunshine molecules. In the sunshine, there are innumerable radiant molecules. Similarly, the fragmental parts of the Supreme Lord are atomic sparks of the rays of the Supreme Lord, called by the name Prabha, or superior energy. Neither Vedic knowledge nor modern science denies the existence of the spirit soul in the body. I don't know, not anymore, I think. I think in modern science is pretty adamant about denying that. And the science of the soul is explicitly described in the Gita by the personality of Godhead himself. I think I got only one more in me. 218. Only the material body of the indestructible, immeasurable, and eternal living entity is subject to destruction. Therefore fight, O descendant of Bharata. Okay, and so here's once again another time. So Krishna dropped a few knowledge bombs, and now he's testing. He's testing Arjuna. He said, okay, you get it now? Can we get back to this? Come on. You're just worried about the body. But I just told you the body doesn't matter. The soul's going to live on forever anyway. So what's the matter? Let's fight. And 219. He who thinks that the living entity is the slayer or that he is slain does not understand. One who is in knowledge knows that the self slays not, nor is slain. This one's really important. So much like I was saying in jest, like Krishna's saying the same thing. You can't actually kill these people, and they can't kill you. Now the tricky part is the self cannot kill. I mean, I can see how the self cannot be killed because the self lives forever. But can the self kill others? I mean, my instinct says yes. But then again, I can see why it's no, because it has to be true both ways. But also, when you kill someone else, you'll likely accrue whatever bad karma from that, no doubt. But you're not actually killing them. You're just aborting the natural process of the material of their material body. They're going to die anyway and they're going to leave that material body eventually. You're just like stopping that prematurely from when it could have been or should have been later. But if you're a warrior on the battlefield following Krishna's orders, it's not premature, it's righteous, and no sin is incurred. It's normally not true for most other people, but no, even in our modern world, like policemen who kill in self-defense, anyone who kills in self-defense, if it's truly self-defense, I see there's very little sinful reaction coming from there. And even when you kill them, you're killing their body. You're not killing them. They just go somewhere else, just like you go somewhere else. All right, let's read the purport for this. When an embodied living entity is hurt by fatal weapons, it is to be known that the living entity within the body is not killed. The spirit soul is so small that it is impossible to kill him by any material weapon, as is evident from the previous verses. Nor is the living entity killable because of his spiritual constitution. What is killed or is supposed to be killed is the body only. This, however, does not encourage killing of the body. The Vedic injunction is Mahimsyat Sarva Bhutani. Never commit violence to anyone. Nor does understanding that the living entity is not killed encourage animal slaughter. Killing the body of anyone without authority, keyword without authority, is abominable and is punishable by the law of the state as well as the law of the Lord. Arjuna, however, is being engaged in killing for the principle of religion and not whimsically. Yeah, so Arjuna does have sanction to kill, and in fact, he should kill, which is what this whole text is narratively based on. Okay, that's it. Next time we'll go on with 220. Thanks for playing, everyone. Hope you enjoy my new virtual background because my XSplit VCam app is now garbage and it puts the logo right on my face. Said, no way, I'm not doing you anymore. Okay, Hare Krishna, Dandavadis.